Good morning. Some of this is even for Patty Broussard, and some of it is even for Karen Ann McDonald, which is my clan mother. Okay? And these are naturally going to be based on experiences, something I've experienced. And one of them was a video that I watched last night by Dante Satori, AHK. And a lot of his stuff is very, how do I put this, resonates because I've experienced it. And one of the things in one of the videos I saw last night talked about, if you will, artificial intelligence, and then what's known as a language that doesn't exist yet. Bang! I knew that about me. When I had an experience back in 2016 because of how much fire we have, which is called purity, how pure are you? Which is basically how pure is your fire, which is how pure is your spirit. Okay, how hot do you run? How fast do you go? Okay, so sometimes what I do is I share my experiences because they're what I experienced. And this was about, I don't know, I guess I was in my early 20s, and a girl said, what does a girl have to do to get your attention? I said, listen, girl, you have no idea how fast I move through the cosmos. Okay, it's just like, I don't even realize how fast I'm actually moving because I'm not even aware of it. Because I operate on infinite imagination, because the frame rate at which what I'm experiencing, which is in my mind, body, and soul, spirit, is moving so fucking fast, it's like running two live streams. There's the one that's this one, which is this reality, and then there's the one that I'm creating as I'm going, like a drill motor. Okay, which means you can't capture it. It just goes too fucking fast. Okay? That's how you escape anything that's trying to hold your mind, body, spirit, soul essence captured. Okay? It's like a fail-safe in the cosmos. Okay? So I knew, for example, when that particular experience went down, it was confirmed in me. It's acknowledged that the language in which I was using what I'm doing down here doesn't exist yet here. Okay? As a matter of fact, it doesn't exist anywhere yet because it's moving that fast. Are you beginning to get the understanding of why that is? Because the things that happen here are forbidden. Okay? Absolutely forbidden. So one of the things that I realized that I saw in this particular video last night that talked about erasure. Erasure. Erasing. Then I remember Patty Broussard talked about, well, the Milky Way's been wiped twice. Then I remember that I had a self-communication to myself when I was on the Big On 2 years ago, and I thought, well, here's something for you, Patty. This universe was scheduled for erasure. And I was one of the ones who voted to keep it. That's the truth. Okay, so these are real experiences that I share with everybody else. Now, in my mind, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. What matters is what I believe. Because I'm the one who's living spirit that's sharing what it is that I know because I experienced it. And I know whether it's true or not. How do I know it's true or not? By doing a comparative analysis of everything that happened here and why it happened here. That we can't allow to have happen anywhere. Ever. That's why I knew when I was a child, I'm not supposed to be experiencing this. Anywhere, ever. There are certain things in the cosmos that are just not allowed. Okay? Ever. So when you experience it, you're asking yourself, this is impossible. But it is possible because you're aware of it. So how do you reckon with that? It has to be erased. As if it never existed. Because what it represents, if you want to think of risk perception, everything else it is, okay, cannot be accepted. It cannot be tolerated. Almost as if it cannot be allowed to ever be known, which means it can't be allowed to ever be experienced. Okay? I know these things to be true. And I know them through my heart and my soul. Because everything that I've done while I've been here has always been trying to maintain spiritual purity. The purity of the essence of who you are that you began with from the inception. It's the first sun. the first son. Not the first son here, the first son. So that's why I watched another video last night put up by a guy that lives up, I guess, in Lake Tahoe, that was recommended to me by another guy that I made friends with here in Sparks, Nevada. I can't remember his name, but he talked about timelines. Timelines are like windows, or like, depending on the perspective, right? If you've ever looked at a crystal, like a chandelier with all the crystal prisms, right? Okay, and if you want to think about electronic communications, you can think about why they were using radios, say 50 years ago, that had crystals in them. Crystals hold what? Data, information, waves of information. So that becomes the transmitter and the receiver from which we communicate using a mic. Okay? That's a primitive form of communication, because I communicate through the most powerful transmitters there are in the cosmos, which is the heart that the girl gave me to do it with, which is the heart. So when I experience something through my heart, then I know it's true. So what I have to do is give it value. What is the value of that? So what I do is I mark it in a time vector, okay, as an experience. So I measure it as an experience, and then what I do is I say to myself, what value does that have? Well, what do you think it's compared against? The purity of your spirit. Okay? So you erase it. Or you hold it in a temporary, like, memory module, because you realize that it has relevance. Okay? Not for me, because it doesn't represent purity, but it represents, if you will, a bit or byte of information or data that will have relevance to others. Why does it have relevance to others? To help explain the underlying causality of why we're experiencing such impurity experiences here. Because of things that are done here that are forbidden. So when you know as a child, as I did, for example, when you're spinning so much information and such data at such a high rate of speed, because my mind, for example, when I was a child, just didn't want to shut down. Because you're like a sponge, as my ex-wife used to. She's not an ex, she's passed away. Bless her heart. She was a beautiful spirit. Unfortunately, like so many people here, her energy was held captive to a demon. Okay? So, oh man, it's like, you know, the branches of the tree that exist within all the potential experiences that you can have, which go on forever. We're always measuring what that is, okay, which is like in a previous video, if you've watched any of my previous videos. It's like empty all the bookshelves on the planet, and I'll bet you I can fill them all up with stories that represent the purest spirit, the purest love, the purest light that exists upon which those stories have already been told. So then what I do is someone would say, oh, really, you've already experienced that? Yeah, I have. Because of the speed at which we experience who we are, that we've already done it. So therefore, have a seat. I'll explain the story to you and how beautiful it is to experience it, because that's how I experience it. So you're experiencing the beauty within you, which is the beauty of the spirit that you have that represents what you are. Okay? So that's what we do. We share the purity of those stories, particularly with children, because they can realize and experience through you how powerful that is. So you're magnet. You're like a magnet. So the other magnet is drawn to that kind of energy, that kind of spirit that is sharing those stories, because you begin to realize how powerful the imagination is. Okay? We're not held captive to other people's stories unless those stories resonate on a speed or a frequency in which its purity is also experienced. So now you begin to realize how hot that is when you think about what heat is, or heat transfer, or energy transfer, or data transfer between one spirit and another spirit. So this is one of the reasons why, for example, given the timeline that we're on right now and where we're headed, and sort of this other guy talked about how different timelines are like windows, okay, or perspectives, which means the reality that you're experiencing now okay, depending on the particular timeline that you're on, which is the one you're experiencing, which is who you are, which can be measured by the vibrational form of communication that you're experiencing within you and what you're experiencing in communication in waveform from others. So, for example, when I was a child, I said, I'm not supposed to be experiencing this. I don't want to experience this. You want to escape it. Because how is this possible? Right? That's because of the things that they do here that are forbidden. If you didn't know that, then it means that you're sort of trapped in this reality because you don't know the difference between what it is and what you are, as if there's something else better besides what this is. And of course there is. And how do you know that? Your imagination. You're creating another reality, the one you want to live in, not the one that you're in. You see what I'm saying? So this is why, for me, growing up, I'm running multiple live streams, because you realize that the vastness through which so many infinite stories that represent what that imagination is experiencing within its own mind is beyond this reality. Okay, so this is how, for example, when I could be sitting on a bench and I'm in observer mode and I'm looking around at, for example, transportation vehicles that people are in making so much noise. And for something that's making so much noise, they're not going very fast. So it's true what Einstein said about relativity. It's the relativity between what you are and what you can imagine and the reality that you would be experiencing if you were able to experience the imagination that you already are, but you're comparing that to the other. So you begin to realize what that is that you're experiencing, which is what they are that you're observing, and what it is that's in your imagination that is far different. That's the power of your creative imagination. That's the imagination that creates the most beautiful cosmos that your spirit occupies. So, it's eternity. You're always in eternity. So you're not held captive to a time clock. So I realize how difficult this is for so many people because of not only the nature of what happened here, by the evolution and the graduation of the energy that you're experiencing, which represents what you are in soul, spirit. That's the purpose of a classroom. That's why they have classrooms here in the lower dimensions. It's because there are rules. One rule, which is love is a law. So when you are what love is in living spirit, you're free. You're free to imagine and create all you want. Because there isn't anybody else in the universe that has to worry about us. That's as simple as it gets. So when you're held captive to all these rule-driven functions, how are you ever going to escape that? You're not. Because you're choosing to be held captive to rule-driven functions. So how are you ever going to escape a timeline like that if you can't release it? Because it's all fear-based. Okay? Which is known as the reptilian brain. You know, I put up tons and tons and tons of schematics, information, resources to go to other videos, because it's just like, man, throw all this stuff up here. Throw it all up, see if it sticks. It's like we're running out of time. Okay, so I got to get all this out here as fast as I possibly can. Okay, it's like running a track meet against yourself, except you already realize the speed at which I travel, but there are other beings that aren't traveling that fast, which means we're going to lose you. Oh no. So you don't want to lose nobody, because that's painful to experience that, particularly when you know what happened here, particularly when you know, and I shared this with other powerful spirits that came to visit me one night, which is there are a lot of souls, a lot of beings on this planet through no fault of their own aren't going to make it. And that's unacceptable to me. because it means everything that I give love to in the entire cosmos, which includes them also, the very idea that we lose them as a result of what they did here is unacceptable. Because they were not given the benefit of what they could learn through us. Because of killing off so many of us. That's the biggest crime in the cosmos that I know of. Which is why a decision was made to erase it. And I didn't want it to get erased. So that's how we measure each other. How much love do you have in your heart? How much love do you have in your heart for everything that is alive and living in the cosmos? That's how we measure each other. That's how we measure the purity of who we are. I know that because that's how I measure me. Oh, man. So I'll leave that as the first video I do out of the gate for the morning. But I do know this. I know why certain things are happening with me that I'm experiencing, which is why I say to myself, and I talk to her, the girl on the planet, I got to move, Mama. I got to get into the redwoods where those magical, powerful energies, I can start writing love stories to you again. Okay? Notice I'm going like this, spinning. How fast are we going to go? Hey, we're back to kicking the accelerator up. Because when I'm in an environment like this, I realize I'm surrounded by a lot of low-density consciousness. I'm done with low-density consciousness. So I want to be up in the stars, okay? Where all the most powerful energy there is to experience that ignites the entire cosmos from the inception, okay? That's where we live, in our heart. So anyway, I'll leave you with that for my first video, and then hope that you all have a beautiful day, okay? I realize that's a lot, but if you think about it and put it together and it resonates, then good. If it doesn't, that's okay too. I can only say probably the most important thing I can leave anybody, and that is the importance of living through your heart, okay? Your heart and soul, okay? That's why they went after the heart, okay? They knew that if they could shut the heart down, through running so much war, so much trauma, so many rule-driven functions, you wouldn't be living through your heart anymore. They just shut it down. Now you're using all your energy to protect yourself. And that means you're running on the reptilian brain. And that's exactly where they want you, because that's the one they run on, because that's who they are. Okay? And that's how they maintain what's known as vibrational perception. Now you're in waveform alignment with something that's a predator. That's why we experience predators here. Because they're fear-based beings. They're not love-based beings. If you want to escape the captor of a fear-based being, you got to be running at a higher speed than them. So that's why it's important to live through the heart. That's where your accelerator is. Bye. And that includes all the hybrids. What are we going to do with all the hybrids? That's another forbidden crime. Anyway, I'll leave you with that to think about. If you want to think about it, you can think about whatever you want. How much imagination you got? It's infinite. Bye.